Well, hello there, everyone. Welcome to our Perth Observatory's virtual star party for October the 27th of 2021. We're getting through the year very, very quickly, aren't we?
It is just scary. Christmas around the corner.
Yeah, I know. Okay, welcome, guys. If you don't know who I am, I'm Matt. I'm Chair Administrator of the Perth Observatory and a volunteer here. And tonight, again, with the telescope, we've got Roger, another fellow volunteer from Perth Observatory and also from Astrophotography Australia as well. Hey, Roger, how are you going?
I'm good, Matt. Yeah, it's good to be back on here. I think I skipped the last one or two, so back to game.
We've had Riley from Astro Tourism WA and Stargazers Club helping me out as well. So
hopefully you had all the cloud with him, hey?
Actually, we got lucky with we haven't. I'm knocking on wood. We haven't had a cloudy night yet. I think this year we haven't. So
very good.
Yeah. So yeah. Well, guys, if you don't know what you've stumbled in on, we're going to be showing you some cool objects in the night sky with Roger's telescope, which is in the central wheat belt. So we don't have to worry about.
That's right. Yeah.
We don't have to worry about pesky light pollution.
That's it. Yeah, I'm hooked into my remote site. Got a remote site out there in the central wheat belt where I host telescopes and run workshops. So
awesome.
Yeah, now, so far it's clear.
Now we've got people in the chat here, and so I want to say hello to Tyndall Pancake, Singer, Tech Chiru, Dino. Got Any Soup as well is usually in the chat here. Smokey Joe says hi. Coscat, Erin Miss P has joined as well. We have Poison Ivysaur as well, going with the Pokemon theme there. Mawson, and also I think usually Mel's on here, but I can't see it. But Mel's, if you're here, welcome to the live stream. If you want to ask questions during the broadcast, in the description of this video, there's a link to our Discord channel, and you can actually join and ask questions. And Roger and I, to the best of our ability, will answer them. So, and if we don't, then we'll Google them and pretend like we know what we're talking about.
We can switch topics quickly.
Yes. And before we start, guys, if you like what you hear tonight or see, you can click the like button. Also subscribe, and you'll get notifications and also click the bell so you can get notifications when this happens. And so there's also a couple of things coming up. We have Astro Fest on Saturday the 13th of November from 5:30 to 9:30, and that's where all the WA astronomy groups come together at Curtin University on Edinburgh Oval. We have telescopes galore out there so that you can actually have a look through the telescopes. We've got talks, stalls in Curtin Stadium. Roger here is curator for the Astrophotography exhibition there. So there's a lot of fine astrophotographers aren't there in West Australia, Roger?
Explain that a little bit, Matt.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so the astrophotography exhibition with Astro Fest is run each year, and you might think if you're a local astrophotographer you haven't heard about it for a while, and that's because of course this Astro Fest was intended to be run in February. So this exhibition is a result of entries from what was it, October, November 2020 they were submitted or judged, and so they were actually the winners and so on were the finalists and winners were announced back at the start of the year. We did seeing as Astrofest was cancelled, we did a specific event for the finalists at John Curtin Gallery, and since then the exhibition has travelled around a little bit. But now that we've rescheduled Astrofest to November, it's now finally going to get shown at Astrofest. So there won't be an awards presentation this year because we've already done that, but we'll still have all 35 or 36 prints there on display. We'll also have all the valid entries on display as we did last year. Last year I did a new thing where I printed out on great big contact sheet prints, 1.2 by 1.8 meters, every entry which was put in so that people could see their entries compared to everyone else's and see what was put in there. So we've got more this year than the year before, of course. I think it was over 300. I can't remember how many exactly. And so all those will be printed out on these great big contact sheets. So you can see your entries there. But yeah, it should be a good night and lots of good astrophotography to see there. And yeah, I'll be manning the exhibition as well as my own Astrophotography Australia store there. So going to be good there to be with the rest of the WA community, astronomy community like Perth Observatory and so on. So,
and we'll also be I'll be live streaming the moon. So guys, if you want to join in on the action, and I'll have the Discord running up on that night as well. So you can ask questions as we have a look at the moon. And also, Roger, you've got some workshops coming up as well.
Yeah, I have. I've got one on the next Saturday, not this Saturday, but the following Saturday, which is the 6th of November. Now, I've got one place left on that workshop. It's the second ever that I've done at my family's private site in the Central Wheatbelt. So this one's going to be a bit of nightscapes mixed with tracker, using the ultra portable trackers like the Skywatcher Star Adventurer. So we're going to be doing quite a focused session on setting up and using the Skywatcher Star Adventurers and similar to do some sort of 24mm through to 200mm sort of short telephoto kind of exposures, and trying to perfect those. So there's one place left on that. And then the next one is at Bino Central. So I've done a new one there, which is choosing your direction in astrophotography. It's really a sort of very entry-level piece to help people understand the diversity of astrophotography and what suits their equipment and what equipment that they might need to buy and what time and money they might need to invest to do particular types of astrophotography. It's just a short evening class. But the idea is running it there at Bino Central, we can walk around the store and talk about the exact equipment that's there and talk about what equipment people have at home and what you can match up with what kind of astrophotography. So the first one was a couple of weeks ago, and that went very well. The people who participated in that, which was a good crowd of, I think it was about 20 people there, really sort of got a lot out of that in terms of where they might want to take their interest, how dedicated they want to be to it. So yeah, this one is on the 25th of November at Bino Central. So both of those workshops, I've got Eventbrite links from my astrophotography.com.au page. But yeah, that's all for the advertising of those. But if you want to jump onto either of those, just go to my astrophotography.com.au website and you'll see the links there to Eventbrite under the workshops. But I reckon we get on to some images now, Matt.
Yeah, so well, for people who haven't been watching this before, what's this program that you've got? It looks like it's SkyX, is it?
Yeah, it is SkyX. Yeah, so I run my telescope out there using SkyX. That's primarily because I run a software BISC Paramount to control my as the mount for my telescope, and so it's natural to use the SkyX for that. I've got it pointing at the moment at NGC 253, which is a spiral sort of edge-on galaxy. It's the Sculptor Galaxy. You can see where it's pointing there, sort of in the night sky, east, southeast, nice and high at the moment. And see a little preview image here. Now the actual image, which has been building away in the background, is there. So this is doing a live stack of NGC 253, the Sculptor Galaxy. Now, live stacking is not a case of perfecting astrophotography. It's a case of whatever the software will let you do. It's a little bit tricky, as people who have been on our stream before would know. But it is, touch wood, so far working right now.
I'm touching wood for you, Roger. Yeah. So.
Yeah, thank you very much. Not that us scientists are superstitious or anything, but but yeah. So we've got a nice galaxy there. It's coming up reasonably well in color. So galaxies don't have a lot of strong color to them until you start adding maybe specific hydrogen alpha filters or such, and really boosting the saturation. So I'm reasonably happy with the detail that we're getting in the Sculptor Galaxy.
We don't have the same issues.
You can see if I
we don't have the same issues with the blue filter this time, do we, Roger?
Hopefully not. No. You can see if I zoom in there, there's a heck of a lot of noise in the background there, and that's just because of this live stacking not being the perfect stack usually. But zoom out a little bit, and we get a nice view there.
Yeah, that's looking nice. And we've also got some people in the chat saying hello, and that's Marshmallow Matt, Zombie Kitten 13, Coach, and his 8-year-old daughter Maya. Hey Maya, got any soup? We don't. We'll let you off this time being late, and we said hello as well just in case. So we'll let you off this time, but you better be on time next time, okay? But yeah, so the Sculptor Galaxy is also known as the Silver Coin Galaxy or the Silver Dollar Galaxy as well, and it's about 11.4 million light years away from us. So the light that Roger's taking photos with has travelled 11.4 million years to get into the telescope, and it's 90,000 light years across as well. So it's just slightly smaller than our galaxy. And it's currently a.
Is it really though? I've never compared its actual size to our Milky Way. So there you go. It's slightly smaller.
Yeah. So our galaxy is around about 110,000 light years in diameter. So just a smidge larger than the Sculptor. It's also a Starburst Galaxy, so it's currently going under an intense period of star formation. So it's probably had it's probably gobbled up a dwarf galaxy in the past, and that's caused all the dust and gas to start clumping together and really pumping out those stars. So, but it's also moving away at us at a pretty reasonable rate as well. It's 243 kilometers per second. It's moving away from us. So that's
right.
Yeah, it's like that, click straight by us. We wouldn't even see it really. But it was found by Caroline Herschel in 1783 while she was doing one of her comet searches. There's a lot of these objects when they were found. They first thought people were looking for comets. Charles Messier's catalogue is famous for essentially him wanting to catalogue everything that wasn't a comet, so he didn't get excited too early. So yeah.
So with this live stack, it's not possible to do things like calibration frames, and so you can see there's a bit of a gradient here due to some non-flat field of my camera, and it is mostly relating to my camera and how it records images as opposed to anything. You can see also there's a green streak through that corner, and that's because a satellite has gone through when the green filter was being exposed.
Nice.
Actually, looking at the YouTube stream there, Matt, they're probably not knowing what I'm talking about because it's underneath their heads. There's a satellite trail. So there you go. I could have not even mentioned it.
You
no
dug
one would have
yourself
noticed.
in, yep. So it is a very bright galaxy, but it's also a very dusty galaxy, and it can actually be seen through binoculars near the star Beta Centauri. So what I'll do is, while that's taking more photos, I will bring up Stellarium so that we can actually see exactly where it is. So if
Well, Matt, while you're doing that, I might start preparing for taking images of the next object, if that's
yeah,
okay.
no worries. Yep. So looks like I'm having a little bit of issues with Stellarium there. Come on, quickly turn it on. Well, Stellarium's playing up for me tonight, so I'll get it on the site here. Where is it? It's very, very weird.
Don't you just love software?
I know, it's fantastic when everything...
Did it do an update and reset its settings or something?
I don't know, yes. It can't actually show them. Hang on, what I'll do...
Updates are the bane of my life with astronomy. I mean, often with controlling a telescope, you have everything finely tuned software-wise, and then you get something in the stream of software, usually Windows, but sometimes that's something else like PixInsight, goes and has an update, and all of a sudden pieces of equipment can't talk to each other.
Yeah.
And the nightmare that can be is just crazy. So I feel your pain, Matt.
I do love it that as soon as Windows 11 came out, it said, "Hey, you can update." It's like, no, I'm not updating. No, it doesn't seem to. And the annoying thing is, I can actually see the mouse on OBS, but I can't actually see that's where it is on the screen, which is so.
All right. Because I can see your night sky view there, Matt. But
Yep, hang on. Let's have a look here. I will turn on the. And again, it was all working before we got started. So let me turn on that. And so it's
so what?
Okay.
You got
it. We're doing this on the
going
fly.
there, Matt, or do you want me to fill in time for you?
Yeah, if you could fill in time, that would be fantastic. So we're going to go back.
So you can going to go back to my image there. So tonight we're getting to have a look at a couple of different galaxies, or a few galaxies actually, because I showed you before where I was at NGC 253 here in the constellation of Sculptor, and actually I sort of can fill in for Matt here because he's trying to get Stellarium to show you where this is, so I can show you here. And actually I'll just move up a little bit. There we go. So you can see east, southeast there. On the right, we've got the South Celestial Pole there. People might be familiar with the Magellanic Clouds. We've got the small and the large. So just giving you a bit of perspective as to where you're pointing, we're looking there. And up here, we've got the galaxy in the constellation of Sculptor. So it is nice and high in the sky. So that makes it a good time to photograph it and to view it visually. This is quite a bright galaxy to be able to see visually. I've looked at it through telescopes of almost all sizes quite often. In fact, I'm pretty sure I would have looked at it through my original 4.5-inch Newtonian telescope, and it would have been a tiny, small smudge there. So if you have a backyard telescope like an 8-inch Dobsonian or something like that, this NGC 253, the Sculptor Galaxy, is a good target for you to be able to see a galaxy. And so yeah, it's quite achievable. Still having technical issues there, Matt?
Yes, I have.
Yes.
I think I'm just going to have to give up. I think I'm just going to have to give up on Paul Stellarium at the moment. So well, we can use.
Maybe you can keep showing my view if you like. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cancel the live images I've got taking so that I can slew the telescope to another object and start those. But in the meantime, Matt, if you want to talk at all about what NGC 253 is and that galaxy at all anymore, you're welcome to. I'm going to move on to 47 Tucana in the small Magellanic Cloud.
Yeah, I'm blaming you for these technical issues because you said in the chat earlier, it's bound to be fun and technically challenging as always. So it's all your fault. So.
Of course, of course.
So yeah,
Right.
it is definitely one of the easiest galaxies to see after the Andromeda Galaxy. So you do have you just need to have a look for Beta Centauri to be able to see it. It's always good just to get a little, even on your phone, just get a something like Stellarium, a sky chart program, and if you've got you can turn on the ability to, as you move it around, it will show you that part of the sky, and that you should be able to work it. You'll be able to see it even with binoculars. Researchers have actually found the presence of a supermassive black hole at the center, and they think the mass is about 5 million times our galaxy. So that, sorry, it's not galaxy, sorry, our sun. So it's slightly, even though the galaxy itself is slightly smaller than our galaxy, its black hole is actually slightly heavier than our black hole called Sagittarius A. There's only actually ever been, even though it's a Starburst Galaxy, there's only ever been one supernova detected, and that was actually just detected in November 1940. So that's
Actually surprising, you know. I guess if I was still doing supernova hunting with the boss team, the Backyard Observatory Supernova Search Team, I'd be keeping a close eye on this galaxy because there's bound to be one that pop soon.
Yeah. Well, considering they should, like with galaxies like that and our galaxy, you should get, it was about 2 or 3 each year. Oh, sorry, 2 or 3 each century. I think that's
Right.
usually so. Yeah, so it is quite unusual that you don't get to, you can't. Well, it's only had one supernova for all that time. So we can show it through with our 30-inch telescope at the observatory. It's just we haven't had that great of skies recently to try it out. But it is
It's
currently.
It is actually quite a nice view through that 30-inch telescope, unsurprisingly, and even through the 14-inch at the observatory, it's really quite nice.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely. The 30 shows anything beautifully, but it is nice to see, and you can clearly see that it's something. It's not just a nebula or anything like that, because it does have that cigar look or the silver coin look to it. So, yeah. So we're going to go to 47 Tuck next, are we?
Yeah, that's right. 47 Tucana. So it's just taking its first image, and I'm about to start trying to stack those. So for these stacks, I'm doing 60-second exposures, and I'm only doing red, green, blue because this live stack software in PixInsight doesn't do a luminance channel. So got rid of the luminance to try to speed things up. But there's the first image. That's from the red filter. So we'll just wait for some more to come through. I suppose while it's doing that, I suppose, Matt, I might as well bring up where this is.
Yeah.
So flicking back to SkyX here, seeing as poor Matt has lost his Stellarium.
I can see it, just no one else can.
You can see. Oh, it was showing up to me, but yeah.
Yeah.
So looking in the south here, and I suppose just panning around a little bit, over here we've got the Milky Way, which is sort of coming down very low in the west now, which is why we didn't choose to do anything in the Milky Way core tonight, because it's getting quite low in the west. But you'd be familiar with seeing that after sunset if you're in the country, like I know some of our followers are tonight. And the pointers down here very low at the moment, and the Southern Cross extremely low, if not below the horizon, depending on where you are. So that's on the right there, looking south in the southwest, and in the southeast, quite high, not quite due south, but yeah, slightly southeast, is the Small Magellanic Cloud up here, and inside, well, not inside, but in the same line of vision from Earth to that Small Magellanic Cloud is this great big globular cluster of lots of stars. Matt will tell you the details. And so it's that globular cluster which I'm photographing now. From your visual eye perspective, especially out in the country, you can see this globular cluster as a fuzzy dot rather than a sharp star, just with the naked eye. And certainly any kind of optical enhancement on that, like binoculars or a telescope, you start to resolve more detail there. It's quite large. So Matt, maybe you want to tell them a bit more about it while I check on taking some more shots here?
Yeah. So this is the second largest and second brightest globular cluster in our galaxy. There's about 160 of these clusters around that are associated with the Milky Way. So they exist above and below the disk of our galaxy. Now there is some thought that some of these guys were dwarf galaxies that have been consumed by the Milky Way, conquered or assimilated, as the Borg would say. There you go, Roger, I got a Star Trek reference in for you. But
it's better than Star Wars, I'll make sure.
What about Stargate? So there is some belief that maybe Omega Centauri, the biggest globular cluster, is actually at the core of a dwarf galaxy. There is some debate whether 47 Decana is also a former dwarf galaxy. It could just be that it's been a massive big cloud of a nebula, very much like the Tarantula Nebula, which we'll have a look tonight at, that made a whole heap of stars at the very beginning. So normally what happens is that we have open star clusters, which are, say, 100 to 1,000 stars. That's like kindergarten age for stars. These guys are 12 billion years old. So these stars are really, 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 really old. So think of this as an active retirement village for stars. And so they're generation 2 stars. So these guys came after the very first stars that lived hard, died young, very, very quickly. We're talking, anywhere between tens of thousands of years to maybe millions of years. They were big loaded behemoths of hydrogen, and they converted themselves into helium, and as you go through the periodic table, to iron. So these guys are what the generation 2 stars are called metal poor stars. Astronomers, we don't, apart from hydrogen and helium, everything is called a metal. So these are very metal poor stars. They don't have a lot of oxygen. They don't have a lot of iron in them. They don't have lots of calcium. Any of those elements that can be produced from a star going bang. And so we haven't actually found any planets in a globular cluster, and so which was pretty disappointing, because if you were a planet around one of those stars in the center there just would be no nighttime. To take it into perspective, the closest star to us is our sun is our Centauri system. That's just over 4 light years away from us. If you were to shrink our sun down to a pool ball and have that in the CBD, and then you shrunk our Centauri system down to a pool ball, to represent the distance, that pool ball for our Centauri system would have to be in Karratha. That's how big space is. And so these guys, particularly in the center there, they're about 10% of a light year away from each other. So if you were on a planet around one of those stars, there just would be no nighttime. At best, you'd get twilight conditions. So yeah. And so this one's about 16,000 light years away from us, and it's about 120 light years across. It's got anywhere between 1 to 2 million stars. and it can be seen with the naked eye on a dark sky night if you're away from the city or so. It was actually first discovered in 1751 by Nicolas-Louis, and it exists about 16 degrees below our galaxy as well. So it's hopefully this image starts getting a little bit better.
Yeah, hopefully. I just realised that it had automatically chosen the red filter for all three of the red, green, blue channels. So
oh no! It's getting very pixelated. I think we are getting some issues with. There it is. Cool. Yeah.
Also, Matt, regarding planets, the astronomers have now discovered a planet in a globular cluster.
Have they?
They have.
Well, you learn something every day.
I think. Earlier this year, I think.
Yep.
I can't remember the exact details, but it might have been in M4. But yes, so there you go.
Well, you can always be proven wrong. You can. And also there's self-migration in there. So you can actually get small little stars that get formed in the center. They can get kicked out to the outer edges of the cluster itself. And you can actually get bigger stars that form in the outer area. And then they actually start to fall into the center of the cluster. And then you get these really strange stars called blue stragglers, where you get two stars. We think it's two stars merging together because they straggle away from the evolutionary path of a normal star like our sun, and so they actually they're called blue stragglers, and they actually fall into the center because of how much mass they have as well. So it is pretty interesting. What can happen in globular clusters. In February 2017, they actually found a black hole that may be actually be located in the center of the cluster as well.
Got a question in the chat you might like to answer about what defines a cluster versus a nebula or a galaxy.
Okay, so I wouldn't be a volunteer if I didn't know this.
Well, this is a good test to make sure you can stay volunteering at Perth Observatory.
Yeah. If I stuff up here, I'll have to. Jeff will take my badge. So, a star cluster is actually formed from a nebula. So, in what we like to do at the Perth Observatory is when you come up on the night sky tour, take you through a range from a star's birth to its death. So a star will form in a nebula, and so which we'll show you later on. When that nebula has used all the dust and gas it can to make all the stars it can, it will then become a open star cluster. And so that period of time for a nebula making stars takes probably about 2 to 300 million years, and then comes the open star cluster. And so you basically have all these stars that are being formed, just loosely orbiting around each other. And over the next couple of 100 million years, they'll get sent off in their own direction around the Milky Way. And because they're only loosely orbiting around each other, it doesn't take a lot for one just to get diverted because it got too close to another star, and then that one gets sent out, and in the process of it getting kicked out, it can also kick out other stars as well, just because it gets too gravitationally close to them. And so that's how the stars work. So our sun would have been formed in a nebula that formed an open star cluster, and then it's being kicked out and it's orbiting around on their own as well. So a globular cluster is, they're really old. We don't actually see, I don't think we've seen any young globular star clusters. So a lot of the thinking is that if they weren't dwarf galaxies that have been captured, you've had massive big clouds or massive big nebulas that have existed around the galaxy, and they have actually formed the stars so instead of becoming a galaxy, they've actually just formed a massive big ball of stars. A galaxy is, depending on, it can be elliptical, it can be spiral, and so in a galaxy can have hundreds of thousands of stars. It can have nebulas. It can have globular clusters as well in it. So it's the traditional view of a galaxy is a spiral galaxy. But once you've actually got them all mangled together, you can get irregular galaxies. What will happen with our galaxy when it merges with Andromeda is it will go through this whole collision where you get all these arms going everywhere, and then it will come together in a big ball, which we call an elliptical galaxy. So that's the difference there. Yeah. So you could essentially have nebula, and then one offshoot is globular cluster if it was at the very beginning. But again, we think maybe the Tarantula Nebula could end up being a globular cluster, or nebula open star cluster. So if you like to do all your diagrams and that kind of stuff. Yeah. How is a black hole made? Ooh, that's a cool one as well.
Yeah, well, we've kindly got any soap there who's answered that one succinctly for us. With the images, I see I've got a bright satellite that's gone straight through the red channel. Getting a bit of a mix of colors here. I think that's because there's a little bit of cloud going over and it's still getting darker. I was looking at the SQM reading. So this is a measure of the darkness, and you can see that it's still getting darker. It hasn't actually got proper dark yet. It'll go up to about 21.78-ish tonight before the moon rises. So it's still getting darker, which is one reason why our colors are varying a bit. Also, with an object like this, you really need to do proper processing to bring out the nice diversity of colors in the stars. You might be able to see on the live stream there's more yellow and more blue kind of stars there, but you can bring that out a lot more in sort of post-processing, which this isn't going to do for us on a live stream. Shall I move on to the next
object that would be great
for us, Matt?
So that we're now going to be looking at the Thornox Cluster.
Yes, my favorite. So I'll just have to stop all this live stuff and get things going again. And seeing as Matt hasn't got his stellarium working, we're just going to do this all with my screen here. So Thornox is a constellation which is of mine, and that's because it's nowhere near the main bulk view. It's quite the opposite. It's where you can see out to deeper space and see more galaxies. So Thornox, we're going to be looking here, which actually it surprises me how low it is. I must have been doing my sample images the other night at a later time when it had risen more. But anyway, Thornox here in the east-southeast. If you're out under country skies and you look there, you don't actually see a lot. You see a few of these bright stars and scattering stars through it, but it's a more empty area of sky. But that's because we don't have much of the foreground Milky Way there, but instead we can see the distant galaxies with telescopes. So I'm going to take this over to the galaxies and do this cluster, which is a beautiful little, big cluster of galaxies, and see how it comes out.
So we did have a question saying, what happens when a quasi-star dies? Now, so these are some of the biggest stars that have ever existed. What we've actually found is you get to a certain point and there can actually be stars that just blow themselves to bits and there's just nothing left over. Normally, the really, really big, any stars that are 15 times the mass of our sun upwards end up in a stellar black hole. But there have been some massive big stars that astronomers have watched die, and they thought, well, there should be a black hole there, and there's just nothing. It's just gone, as the joke would like to say. But yeah, so most of the time they'll end up as a black hole. But yeah, they can blow themselves to bits to the point where there's just nothing left, not even a core. So I would probably mostly say, if I had to put my life savings on it, I would probably say they would end up as a black hole, these quasi-stars. So yeah. All right, so the Thornox Cluster is actually about 62 million light years away from us. So again, we're going to be seeing light that has taken 62 million years to get into the telescope, then to go through a series of computers onto this YouTube video right here. It's the second richest galaxy cluster within the 100 million light years. The biggest and brightest is actually the Virgo cluster as well. Now, the Thornox cluster could also be associated with the nearby Eridanus group. So, Thornox is a constellation itself, and then there's Eridanus, the river constellation. So that's where we get these funny names from. We don't really know whether, or it's a great source to actually find out the evolution of such galaxy clusters because it's relatively close to us. And so it also allows to see the gravitational effects of a merger of galaxy subgroups. So it looks like there is two subgroups coming together. So our local group has about 100 galaxies. So you can get a whole bunch of these galaxy groups coming together to form a supercluster as well. At this one side of it is NGC 1399, and then there's another half of that's merging into that group. There's about 57 galaxies associated with this cluster, and they include NGC 1316, which is the brightest of the galaxies, and it's a lenticle galaxy, which is 60 million light years away, 60,000 light years across. So lenticle galaxies are intermediate galaxies in between an elliptical and a spiral galaxies. They contain a large-scale disk, but they don't have large-scale spiral arms or anything like that. They have NGC 1365, which is the Great Barred Spiral Galaxy, which is 56 million light years away, and it's actually a pretty large galaxy. It's actually twice the size of our galaxy. It's 205,000 light years away from us. There's even an irregular galaxy, NGC 1427A, that's 70,000 light years away from us, and it's being caught up in the gravity of NGC 1427, and that's 70,000 light years in diameter. And finally, there's NGC 1404, which is 60 million light years, and it's slightly bigger than our galaxy at 130,000 light years. So there's some decent-sized galaxies in this cluster, and yeah, so it's also the galaxies are also experiencing strong star formation activity. So what you're probably finding is that there's gravitational forces from all these galaxies that are causing them to produce baby stars at a rapid rate as well. So yeah. So you can see.
So I'm starting to get images here. I've got red, which I'm just going to start that one and get the green going once I can. So yeah, we've got some galaxies there. People might have been seeing as I was, as you were talking, Matt, I was doing a bit of fiddling around to see if I could plate solve to show where these different galaxies are and which ones are which.
So I can actually
plate solve did work.
Yeah, so the NGC 1365, which is the Great Barred Spiral, that's that one right there. Yeah.
The Spanish Dancer.
Oh, is that the
It's called the Spanish Dancer.
Is it?
That's what I know it as.
Oh, okay. No, that's
Yeah.
also called the Great Barred Spiral Galaxy as well. So.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So you learn something every day as well, Roger.
Now, I'm actually looking at that focus, which is a little bit average. So once this gets going with these other frames, I'll see if I can improve the focus quality.
No worries.
Not quite sure why it's frozen at the moment.
Yeah, I'm just having a quick look to see which is which. So yeah, so that is the Great Barred Spiral, and then it's up.
I'm actually going to really mess you up, Matt, and I'm going to just close and reopen this script because for some reason it's just not choosing to attempt any stacks. Oh, actually, maybe. No, I'll leave it. It might work. The wonders of trying to do live stacking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got one blue, one green, and one red. So we will start to get.
So we have. So Roger, if you move your cursor to the right, keep on going. Stop. That one there is called NGC 1399. We've got to come up with some better names for these. And then if you
1399 is a good one. It's always one of the brightest.
Yeah.
So it's easy to spot in a telescope.
Yep. And then so if you go slightly to 10 p.m. from that, that one there. That one is NGC 1404 there. And then it's having a bit of hard time trying from. So you get a wide range. You get a wide range of types of galaxies in there.
Let's just hold that thought for a second and see if I can just get this live stack working. I don't quite know why it froze, but I did confuse it with two red stacks. So I shall start that, which is the red. For people who haven't been on our live stream before, I guess I'll explain while I'm doing this that most astronomy cameras, dedicated astronomy cameras, are mono, so black and white, and you use filters in front of those cameras to do color or whatever frequencies you choose of light. And so I've got tonight I'm just doing red, green, blue as a visual sort of spectrum. And so each of these comes down and the software has to merge together the red, green and blue images. Now, I don't know exactly why, but it's the live stack software is all of a sudden on this third object choosing to not actually stack them. I'll try one more time before I nuke PixInsight and try again. So that's the red channel from the red filter. Then we've got, jump around a bit, the green channel from the green filter. Make this bigger. The blue one next. So I've got the 3 frames there now. Hopefully this will let me actually stack these.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Get about, over 10 galaxies in that photo there.
Oh, there's tons,
Yeah.
yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Did I get one? 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. About 13 maybe.
And Coscat's asking, how much processing power does this equipment utilize?
Yeah, CPU. Look, not a lot. If you go and process a batch of images from a night, then yeah, sure, it'll spend a few minutes churning through it. But PixInsight does mainly use memory, so these are all 64-bit images, and PixInsight will upscale them, and so you end up with quite large files, and 16 gigs of memory will disappear like that.
Yeah.
So memory intensive, CPU, middle of the range.
And yeah.
This is really not playing format. For whatever reason, it's choosing to not let me start watching anymore. So I'm just going to completely kill PixInsight and see if this plugin will work.
See, I told you it was working too well when we were all set up. I think I jinxed us.
It is, look, this is something which I talk about in this workshop about choosing your direction in astrophotography, because it is kind of challenging. There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of pieces of the puzzle. Not even when you're trying to do this live, and not everyone actually wants to get involved that heavily and have to work all that stuff out, which is really quite a time investment.
And usually it's one of us that's having a hard time. It's either you or I are having a hard time. It's never been both of us at the same time, so we can both feel each other's pain. So yeah. Coscat's also said, is it true when you see beautiful, brilliant purple images of nebulas and galaxies that they're actually artificially coloured?
See, I wouldn't say that. Well, it depends on what the person has done. Typically, I wouldn't use the word artificial in general, unless someone's done some particular editing there. But what you find is that so the human eye can't perceive the color at all because it's too faint when you look through a telescope. So you're never going to see unless it's black and white and faint, you're not going to see a real image of what it looks like to the human. So when we take photos of these nebulas and galaxies, you do get color in the photos because the cameras can receive that color. Now, if the cameras are using red, green, blue filters as tuned for the human visual spectrum, then you're getting real colors. And it's then just a case of whether the person processing those images bumps up the saturation lots and does other manipulation like that. So that's sort of real colors. Separate to that is you might choose to, instead of photographing with red, green, blue filters, you might choose to photograph with oxygen, hydrogen alpha, sodium, or not sodium, sulfur, something like that. And in that case, you're just choosing a different section of the spectrum of light. So it's real, but it's different to what humans would perceive visually. And so in that case, astrophotographers have to show that somehow. And how do we show something which we wouldn't normally be able to see distinctly like that? We do that by assigning a color of red, green, blue to those different parts of the spectrum, those different filters. And so, again, it's not false or made up. It's just a different part of the spectrum, and you have to assign that as something which we can see. So typically oxygen filters, the results from oxygen filters would be assigned blue. That's just common. And hydrogen alpha red. And so you end up with a color image, which is not how you would see it visually, but you wouldn't see it visually anyway because it's too faint. So that hopefully that helps a little bit with understanding that.
And Koska, when you actually see, say, the next object that we'll show you, the Tarantula Nebula, when you see it through a telescope, it actually looks like this bluish grey colour. So, but when you actually take long exposures of it, it does look pinkish and reddish as well. So normally if you've got a nebula like Tarantula or Orion, where there's a lot of hydrogen as well, you do get to see this beautiful red purple color coming from it when you do 30 seconds, 20-second exposures. It's just unfortunate our eyes can't see that amount of detail, unfortunately, because the light is so weak. So yeah, did you want to try for Tarantula now?
Yeah, sure. I'll just try one more time on stacking just one channel of this. I really don't know why PixInsight has decided that it's just not going to play ball with this.
So PixInsight is one of probably more of the harder stacking astrophotography programs to use, isn't it, Roger?
It sure is, yeah. And you don't want to usually, unless you're going to go hardcore into astrophotography, you don't really want to start with it because it's kind of scary. But it does have this live stacking thing, which someone's written as a plug-in script, which usually works quite well. But I'm just going to give up on that right now. And I'm going to move on over to the other objects which we're going to look at. This is the field which we were looking at with that. And actually, you know what? It's kind of disappointing that we haven't had a good show of the Thornox Cluster because it's one of my favorites. So we might have to do it again sometime, Matt. But I just will zoom in on this image. This is just one of those images and just the red channel. And you can see how many galaxies there are through there and the structure which you can get out of some of these galaxies. And it really is a fantastic view. So we'll have to come back to this one when PixInsight is behaving a little bit better.
The Medici chain is also good as well. But when you think of it, that's just they're just one galaxy. There's all these galaxies, and each of those galaxies have minimum 100,000 stars in them, and they've got nebulas. They're just like us, and then you realise how massive the universe is. So, yeah.
Yes, that's true.
The next object we're going to be showing is actually the furthest thing that we can show you in the that's not a galaxy at the observatory on a night sky tour, and this is the Tarantula Nebula. So every time I say that word, I think of Pendulum's Tarantula song. So yeah.
So I noticed that the focus was getting out a little bit in that last one, so I'm just going to have to take a bit of a focus image here and see if we can just improve it, because otherwise it's going to look a bit average. With a telescope, unless you have perfection, as you move slew around the sky, typically because the slightest bit of flexure in equipment will change the alignment of the camera to the optics, and the optics may be within it and so on. The telescope, you do find that there are adjustments in focus. Also, as the night goes through, the equipment cools down to nighttime temperature, and so you end up with a change in focus as well. So, and you typically notice the change in focus because of temperature at the start of the night, because that's when the biggest change in temperature is. And so I think I'm just suffering a little bit from being out of focus here. And so I'm just letting this run an autofocus routine. Hopefully this will run fairly quickly. Seeing as Matt's stellarium's not working, I may as well tell you what it's doing. It's basically...
You just have to keep on reminding me, don't you?
I do, Matt.
Yeah.
So what it's doing is there's a little motor on the telescope which moves the focuser bit by bit, and so it takes 3 exposures at each point, and so it'll take 3 exposures, it then moves the focuser a little bit, takes 3 exposures, moves it a little bit, and it keeps doing that until it can match an algorithm, a curve to that, to know where perfect focus is. And so you'll see at the moment the graph in the screen is building up data points, and it's starting to form a curve there. Where we're looking for the focus is the highest point of that curve, where it's sharper, the image is sharpest, its measure of the image sharpness. So it's just going to do this for another couple of minutes.
And if you think that's cool, Roger's got his whole shed with all the telescopes in there, all automated. So we can be on a night sky tour together, and he goes, "Oh, look," on his iPad, the wind's got up to 30 kilometers per hour, or it's starting to rain.
Yeah, well, I haven't talked to you all about the conditions, but I've got all the dashboards on my right here, and looking at this, we've got wind is around 5 k's per hour, very calm tonight, considering it was up at 50 k's an hour during today.
And Roger is such a astrophotographer that even his security cameras can do astrophotography. So yeah.
Right, so this has done a nice autofocus there for us. So I'm now going to tell it to move on over to NGC 2070, which is the Tarantula Nebula, and this will be our last object for the night. So I'll let it move there. You can see it's fairly low on the southeast there in the night sky. So this is looking due south here, so this is a nebula in the Large Magellanic Cloud, which is a galaxy which is visible to the naked eye. It appears to the naked eye as like a what is it, fist-sized sort of fuzzy blob in the night sky.
If you look at Roger's, just above Roger's left shoulder, you can see it right there in the video there.
Oh, true. There you go.
I was just actually, hoping you weren't going to say anything about it. I was just trying to get an opening there where I could say it. So.
I should have mentioned before, actually. Where is it? There we go. We've got the Small Magellanic up there, which we were looking at the 47 Tucana Globular Cluster just near that.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I can't pinch and zoom in to that. Give it 5 years, we'll be able to do that.
Yeah.
But then we've got the Large Magellanic Cloud down here, which has the Tarantula just there, a bright dot in that. And oh, hey, look, a meteor.
Yep. And then to your right shoulder, you've got the pincers. I don't know, not the pincers, the pointers, plus the emu head as well of the galaxy there. So.
Yeah, that's right. We've got the Southern Cross down here, the emu head. Emu's upside down with the pointers up there, and I'm standing there.
Yeah. Was this at your property taken?
This was, yeah. This is out in the central wheat belt, yeah, where I'm running the workshop on the 6th of November on the Saturday.
Yeah.
I had a question there. The telescope sensors are optical, so I've got optical telescopes, and this is a CMOS camera on the optical telescope. So that's what we've got going on there. I'll just see if I can sort out this automation to get this running, and hopefully, fingers crossed, Pix Insight behaves. If not, I'm just going to go mono live stacking with vSkyX. So I'm going to choose this channel here.
Oh, nice. It's looking good. So this is a nebula that is breeding stars like rabbits. It's pumping out it's pumping out stars at dramatic rates because the Large Magellanic Cloud is being disturbed by the gravitational forces from our galaxy. So it will be consumed in the next 1 to 2 billion years, and so you're getting a lot of some of the biggest stars we've found are actually in the Large Magellanic Cloud and in the Tarantula Nebula as well. So this thing is 700 light years across. Now, if you were to bring this to the distance that the Orion Nebula is, which we get to see with our naked eye in Orion, which is summer-autumn object, that's 1,344 light years away from us. If we were to bring this to that same distance, it would take up 60% of our night sky, and you could read a newspaper with the light from it. It's that big. And this is actually 160,000 light years away from us. So you're seeing it as it was 160,000 years ago. And it's both a reflection and an emissions nebula in the constellation Dourdanus, or the Swordfish. So what we mean by reflective and an emissions is that there is light from the stars hitting the dust and then being reflected back to us, and that's what we're seeing. Also, some of the radiation from those stars are hitting gas, slightly warming up the gas because it's very, very cold, and so the gas is starting to glow very much like a neon sign. So not only are we seeing reflected light, we're also seeing gas that is glowing and producing its own light. So if you can get just reflection nebulas or emissions nebulas, but you can also get nebulas where they're both. And so we're going to start to see some color here. So this is the kind of bluish grayish I was talking about when you see through the telescope. Obviously not as good a detail, but that's the kind of bluish that you see, bluish grey color you see when you actually have a look at the object through a telescope with your own eyes. So yeah. So
yeah, I've found photographically it's a real challenge, this particular object, to get the color balance right. Tonight I'm not doing hydrogen alpha, which is what can really help with this, but such as life can't do everything. And so because we don't have the hydrogen alpha, we've got some red coming through in these parts, but this is quite dominated with the more blue color. Also not helped by the fact that this auto live stacking thing that I'm doing with PixInsight here, you can't tune the resulting image you see there at all. I cannot do a single thing to that. It is simply what it's auto chosen. So I can't adjust the colors or the contrast or the brightness at all. So it is coming up in more blue than it really should, but that's just what it's come out with.
So this whole area is slightly bigger than a full moon size. So it is a decent sized nebula. And it's one of my favorite things to show.
Yeah, so when you say that full moon size, you're talking about that area there, I think, aren't you, Matt?
Yeah,
Yep, so because that's the main Tarantula Nebula there. Oh, there we go. We got some more red in there. Whew. You know what? I understand now. Because it only had one red channel at that point, potentially, whereas it might have had more blue or green channels in the live stack. But that balance has come back way better.
Yeah. So this is actually this is the most active star formation region we know of in our local group of galaxies. Not just the Large Magellanic Cloud, not just our own galaxies, not even the Andromeda Galaxy. You know, we've seen our local group of about 100 galaxies. This is where this is the most rapid star formation that we've seen in our local group of galaxies. There was a supernova nearby called SN 1987A. It actually happened on my first birthday. So unfortunately, I didn't have unfortunately, it was 1 year.
Showing your young age there.
I know. Unfortunately, it didn't happen on the day I was born. You know, then you could say I was born for greatness. You know, because I had a supernova. It was the very first supernova that was seen with the naked eye since 1609. So since the invention of the telescope. So it's actually one of our volunteers who used to work here, Steve. He was working on the Transit Meridian telescope, cataloguing stars, and went outside and was looking at the Large Magellanic Cloud. He went, "Oh, there's a star in the Large Magellanic Cloud." I think it was Dennis Haywood who was helping. I have to double check with Steve, but he says you can't see a star in the Large Magellanic Cloud. And he says, no, there is. Look, come out and actually have a look. And they say, oh yeah, there is. That must be a supernova. So there was actually a story that there's a guy in New Zealand actually discovered it, and then didn't think anyone else would notify people. So the astronomical community at the time, so went to bed and thought he'd do it later on, and someone beat him to it. So yeah, so it's a quite a really interesting area, and it actually had the small's actually gone through the Large Magellanic Cloud. So there's a magnetic bridge between the two dwarf galaxies there, and they're actually swapping gas, dust, and stars as well. So it's also known as the Great Loot Nebula, and also the True Lover's Knot as well. So we do like to show this on Valentine's night. So it also kind of looks like a skull when you do long exposures.
Just zooming in a little bit on. It does look like a skull.
Yeah.
We have quite a few people at the Perth Observatory's viewing nights when Matt and I are hosting those as volunteers, and quite a few people that actually comment on it looking like a skull. I just thought I'd zoom in here, Matt, and show this is the broader Magellanic Cloud. That's the Tarantula Nebula there, and we're seeing an area which is sort of like a chunk about that size.
Yeah.
When in fact you can see my camera field of view is that purple box.
Yeah.
And so that is we're seeing about that much of it there.
It is definitely one of my favourite things to show.
Getting some nice detail through here.
Yeah. It's definitely.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? And it comes up so well on visually in all of our telescopes.
It's like Saturn. I've never heard someone go, "Oh, well, that was disappointing," when they've seen it. So.
Yeah, I think I'll kick that person out.
Yeah. All right. Well,
actually, we've had an absolute cracker season this year for the planets, haven't we? With Jupiter and Saturn, I've been on a couple of viewing nights in particular, and our night when we ran the Gas Giants Astrophotography workshop, where participants were putting their cameras on the telescopes to photograph them. That those planets were just showing in so much detail. They were fantastic.
Yeah.
This year's been good.
I was up there for an exclusive night tour, and I had to help because the 30 was playing up, and I went and finally got it on Jupiter and was just staring at Jupiter, and I went, can we tell them not to come? Like we've got the 30-inch to ourselves. Let's just say we had a let's just say we've lost power, so that we could stare at Jupiter all night. So.
I see in the chat there, Coscat has asked when's organised for a viewing night tour. Matt, I think this is one of the problems of the Perth Observatory's success potentially, that while we're not rolling around the hills laughing with nothing to do, we're full up with tours for a few months, aren't we?
Well, we've got some spots, couple of spots left on the Halloween tour this Sunday, so you can come dressed and go into the running for best dressed. We also have Doctor Who night on the 23rd. That's now you can book if you're a fan of Doctor Who. Again, you can come dressed and go in the running for best dressed. We also have New Year's Eve tour that's going to be coming, going to be bookable soon as well. So you just go to Perth Observatory .com.au, and under tours, there's night sky tours, or if you want to come on, say, the Halloween tour or the Doctor Who tour or the the New Year's Eve tour, you just go on to special events and you just book through the website, pay online, and then on the night you just come up, the host will ask you for the name of the booking, mark you off, and give you a group for the night. So, yeah, it's actually, while I'm at it, I'll give the guys the link in the chat as well. So, yeah, so just remember, Perth Observatory.
Well, actually, someone's got any soap has posted a link to our Perth Observatory site there, Matt. So
awesome! Thank you very much, Got Any Soup. It's always good to have the Morty.
We've got to employ these people in our chat.
Yeah.
I say employ, we're volunteers anyway.
Well, we've got our group of Morties as well, that, you know, our groupies who like to help us out and love these chats. So we'll probably leave it there, Roger. Thank you very much for joining us and taking time out of your busy life. And also
It's been good fun, actually, especially with the clear skies.
Yes, it does, yes. Considering what it was like earlier today, it was actually hailing here at the observatory at about lunchtime. So, and I don't trust meteorologists as far as I can throw them. So, so thanks very much, guys, for taking time out of your busy schedules and lives to watch us and watch us stumble around trying to give you pretty pictures of the night sky. Don't worry, we'll once the feed's finished, we will punish our equipment. So, but if you did like what you saw tonight, please like the video, subscribe, and also click the notification bell so you can get notifications when this happens. And also, if you feel like you can help out, you can donate to our Patreon account so we can try and get better equipment as well for this, and so we can improve on these nights as well. So we've got some ideas to really we'll have just having a quick look at our schedule. I'm pretty sure we've got one halfway through November. And then we've got the 1st of December, which is a Wednesday. And then we're going to be doing, the last one for the year will be the 11th of December, which is a Saturday. And we're going to try and get a whole heap of streamers on the channel so we can do a really good, our own Christmas party for the virtual star parties. So, yeah, so Wednesday the 10th of November, Wednesday the 1st of December, and then the last one will be the Saturday, December 11th. So there'll be the final ones for the year, and then we'll come back probably late January, early February. So we'll keep you up to date with what's going to be happening in the Discord channel on the big plans for the 11th of December one. And also I will just watch out for on our social media accounts, and also on Discord if you're on there. I'll put out the link for the Astro Fest link live stream as well. So I probably won't be able to talk to you guys on YouTube because we'll be displaying it in the Curtin Stadium, but I'll answer your questions through Discord as well. All right, guys, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
See you later, everyone.
See ya.